Um, hey, everyone, this is Andy Hall. I am reaching for a beer right now, to tell you the truth. And I guess I'm reaching for a Sammy. Daniel Fitzbennett is with me this evening. Jack Matirko, Satanist extraordinaire, is supposed to be here. He's going to be popping in at some point, probably. In case you're watching and you have a desire to pop into, hey, shoot me a message on Messenger or a tweet message, and I'll give you the code and you can just pop right in. I know there's a bunch of other people streaming right now. However, I may be so bold that I've been covering the chaos for the last since the beginning of Trump's presidency, his campaign, and so I think I have a bit more insight than a lot of us. Yeah, I'm going to talk smack about other people who's streaming right now because that's just who I am. Daniel Fitzbennett, how are you, sir?
I am. You know what? I am celebrating because seeing Trump getting a possible ban on Twitter, with him being suspended on Twitter, that made my day after his failed coup that he tried to incite.
You know, I was eating macaroni and cheese with some broccoli because the broccoli makes it healthy. I was eating that, and then I thought, because we were listening to the PBS NewsHour. Mm-hmm. No, I think it might have been CNN. It was CNN, and then I heard something from the corner of my ear. I know that's not right, but from the corner of my ear, I heard Twitter temporarily bans Trump. And I'm like, really? Yeah, that's you know, I mean, sure, it's chaos and everything, but it's you know, if this is what we have to do, is to have lunatics run into the Capitol building for Trump to get banned. Yeah, okay, maybe that's a fair trade.
I saw the video, one of the in question things that he did. It's when they actually shared his video live. It was him trying to he first was telling people to go home and that he loved them, but he also flat out said the election was fraudulent and that they won by a landslide. And I remember damn near throwing whatever was in front of me at the TV. I just couldn't believe what I was hearing.
Well, you know, it was going to be something like that. It was going to be something like, you know, there are good people on both sides, or some kind of chaos like that.
Yeah. No, it was absolute insanity, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it, what I was hearing.
You know, that's the thing. It's like, you know, listening to Trump is like getting the crappiest Christmas present in your entire, you know, when you're a kid. You don't know what's in the present, but you know it's probably going to be crap because it's from your nan, and she gives crappy gifts. So that's what it's like for me. Yeah,
it's like knitted wool socks.
Yeah, knitted wool socks. They're going to make you scratchy and sweaty, and that's what Donald J. Trump is like. It's just horrible. That's what it is.
And they stink, and then you realize you can't wash them afterwards. They're dry clean only.
Exactly. So when he was on TV giving his message, apparently, you know, supposedly to calm down the situation, I'm like, he doesn't really want to calm the situation down. You know, he's enjoying this. He's sitting in the White House and enjoying the chaos.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, he was throwing gasoline on the fire. I mean, yeah, I was laughing with my friend. He said actually kerosene on the fire, and he said, "Now at this point, it's damn near like putting ANFO on the fire." We're just gonna see how big this could go boom. You know,
apparently it can go boom a lot.
Yeah.
Here we go. Atheos B Sapien says, traitors today masquerading as patriots. You're right. Oh, hey, here's Jack Matirko. Jack Matirko.
Hey, sorry about that.
That's okay.
I had some configuration problems from the last thing I was doing. So
it sounds very technical.
No, not really. I just needed to. There was a window on a screen that wasn't open, and you know.
Wow. So Daniel Fitzbennett, right above us. Jack Matirko. You guys want to introduce yourselves for people who may not know who you are? who are watching this?
Uh,
Daniel, you want to start off first? Well, Daniel
Yeah.
start off first. He's like the official guest.
Fair enough. So I am the founder of AAPN, Atheists Against Pseudoscientific Nonsense, the debunking site that is on Facebook and on the internet. Been around since January of 2015. So we are now 6 years into this little fun thing. Gotten ourselves into all sorts of little fun trouble. About 110,000 subscribers. If you haven't heard about it, check it out. You can see the website, scientificatheist.com. That's about me in a nutshell. I'm kind of known as the pseudoscience guy on Facebook just because of all the crap that I do.
Well, pseudoscience guy in the fact that you're debunking pseudoscience.
Yes. Someone one time said, "Oh, you're the pseudoscience guy," and I'm like, "Yeah, I am."
We'll go with that. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
And Jack Matirko, for people who do not know who you are.
boy, I don't know what I would call my media description right now, to be honest with you. I've been kicking around doing blogs and podcasts and now video and whatnot in the general atheist community for about 10 years. And now I do a lot of stuff with DSD on the side.
With the fake example, right.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
All right. So what I've actually have here is for people who aren't aware of, there might be like one or two people who are like, what do you mean that people are in the Capitol, this chaos going on in Washington? I actually have a small clip I'm going to play. It's from the PBS NewsHour, which should get everyone up to speed. How's that? This is going to be some technical wonders here that you'll all be very impressed with, I'm sure.
Breach of its democratic traditions. For the first time in American history, supporters of the losing presidential candidate forcibly disrupted the official counting of electoral votes. John Yang begins our coverage.
Capitol today when pro-Trump demonstrators breached barricades and pushed their way inside as lawmakers were in the process of making President-elect Biden's election official. Protesters scuffled with police. The Capitol was put on lockdown while law enforcement tried to regain control. Tear gas was fired outside the building to disperse the crowd, and both chambers were empty. Vice President Mike Pence was rushed to safety. The vice president later tweeted, "The violence and destruction taking place at the U.S. Capitol must stop, and it must stop now." House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, who supports congressional efforts to challenge the election's outcome, described hearing gunshots and condemned the violence as unacceptable. A D.C. law enforcement official said at least one person had been shot. An extraordinary sight inside the House chamber. Police drawing their guns while protesters tried to force their way inside. Demonstrators could be seen occupying the dais. Another image showed a protester inside House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office. All 1,100 members of the D.C. National Guard were activated. In addition, Virginia and Maryland called up their National Guardsmen to help reinforce the Capitol. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser imposed a 6 p.m. curfew. In Wilmington, Delaware, President-elect Biden condemned the violence.
What we're seeing are a small number of extremists dedicated to lawlessness. This is not dissent. It's disorder. It's chaos. Orders on sedition. And it must end now.
And President Trump released a recorded message which repeats unfounded claims about the election.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go
Everyone
home now.
knows it.
We have to have peace. We have to have law and order.
The chaos at the Capitol came after President Trump urged protesters to march on the building.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
He spoke at a rally on the ellipse shortly before a joint session got underway, airing oft-repeated and baseless claims of election fraud. Many of the thousands of protesters who descended on the city picked up the president's call.
We got to stop this steal from happening because if we don't, nobody's ever going to vote again. There's not going to be any integrity in our voting system, so everybody's probably just going to stop voting because if it's not going to matter.
Some said they wanted the vice president to refuse to count votes from swing states that Mr. Trump lost.
What needs to happen today is Vice President Pence needs to not open the 7 state electors' envelopes for the states that I'm in. Send it all back to those state legislatures.
From the president himself.
Mike Pence is going to have to come through for us. And if he doesn't, that will be a sad day for our country.
After the vice president said the Constitution doesn't give him the authority to do that, the president tweeted that Mr. Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country. Before the chaos broke out inside the Capitol, it was the vice president himself who called the joint session to order.
Madam Speaker, members of Congress, pursuant to the Constitution and the laws of the United States, the Senate and House of Representatives are meeting in joint session.
One by one, the state's electoral college certificates were opened and examined.
The certificate of the electoral vote in the state of Alabama seems to be regular in form and authentic.
But a process that in the past had been quaintly ceremonial turned into a sharply partisan dispute as some Republicans challenged President Trump's losses in key states, beginning with Arizona.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of vote of the state of Arizona?
Republican Representative Paul Gosar of Arizona.
I rise up for myself and 60 of my colleagues to object to the counting of the electoral ballots from Arizona.
He was joined by Texas Senator Ted Cruz, sending lawmakers to debate the objection in their respective chambers. When Republican leader Mitch McConnell opened the Senate debate, he seemed to warn of what was to come.
Voters, courts, and the states have all spoken. They've all spoken. If we overrule them, it would damage our republic forever. This election were overturned by mere allegations from the losing side, our democracy would enter a death spiral.
When did he get a spine?
Except election again. Every 4 years there'd be a scramble for power at any cost.
Cruz denied he was trying to set aside any votes. He said he was trying to make sure they were legitimate by investigating.
He was trying to be such a slippery shit about that.
Americans believe the election that just occurred, quote, was rigged. You may not agree with that assessment.
Nobody does.
The facts don't agree with that statement.
Exactly.
Democrats accused those objecting of casting doubt on the democratic process.
The Congress does not determine the outcome of elections, the people do. The Congress is not endowed with the power to administer elections. Our states are given that power.
Across the Capitol in the House chamber, many of the same arguments were made. Colorado Republican Representative Lauren Boebert.
10 extra days were added via judicial fiat to allow voter registration. These 10 days were added after voting had already begun. This is completely indefensible. You cannot change the rules of an election while it is underway and expect the American people to trust it.
But Democrats
Karen.
dismiss those claims.
Today, we hear from some in this chamber, not all, but some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, vague claims of fraud. No substance, no evidence, no facts, no explanation for why over 88 judges across this land have rejected the very same claims.
When order had not been restored in the Capitol by day's end, House leaders decided to call it quits and try to finish dealing with the Arizona objection tomorrow. When they reconvened, Republican lawmakers plan to object to results in 2 more states, Georgia and Pennsylvania. Objections at the root of the emotions that fueled the protests that disrupted the process today. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm John Yang.
And we have 2 new updates as this story unfolds. We have learned that lawmakers will return tonight to count the official electoral votes. And there has now been confirmation from 2 news organizations that the woman who was shot inside the Capitol has died.
So there we go. So now I think we're all up to speed, hopefully, I think. If anyone doesn't know what has been going on, that was a nice primer.
One more thing. Trump's Twitter account has been suspended.
Oh yes, Trump's Twitter account has been suspended.
Yeah, that's
why I'm having myself a beer.
And some people are calling for him to resign. Sorry. That is an unrelated thing.
Well, this was the one that I was telling Andy earlier.
I don't know where it is.
To my shock and awe, the American Conservative magazine or news outlet has asked or has demanded that Trump should step down and be removed from office.
Congress people have too, haven't they? I think I saw that a congressperson or 2 has.
So Tons of Mice asked if the Capitol gift shop is closed. They may have an internet store.
I'm sure you can still get all of your President Trump swag.
All the President Trump swag is still available.
Oh yeah. The day it started off with not knowing whether or not we took the 2 Senate seats. It turned, one.
They did call the second race.
Right. Also, so
we took the Senate. Well, the Democrats took the Senate.
Right.
Yes.
No.
And then the mob took the Capitol building.
For a little bit. As a veteran, it really upset me to see that we had to have our National Guardsmen remove these individuals from a place that we effectively call sacred in our country. This is our Capitol building. So, I remember I swore an oath on the Constitution to defend this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And seeing that was just that and domestic part that came to my mind. And seeing those people storm the Capitol, I was just flabbergasted. It's like how this was allowed to happen. First off, they had enough warning. But these, and when I saw the news anchors kind of chastising the Capitol Police about it, the first thing that came to my mind was they were overrun. Those Trump supporters are most likely, the majority of them are armed to the teeth. Yeah. A lot of them are in militia gear. Those police officers have at best a Glock 9 with 2 extra clips, which means they have roughly maybe about 1 AR's clip worth of or magazine worth of ammo to their name. So they are facing against people who are most likely carrying long rifles. Yeah. And so the fact that the National Guard wasn't already there, that upset me because I call that poor planning. But to blame them, the DC police, that was uncalled for in my opinion, just because they don't have the setup to deal with such crazed anarchists. And yes, I'm going to call them anarchists.
Not anarchists, fascists.
There you go. That's even better. That's even better.
Strong distinction between those two things.
Totally. Never again from the chat says it's been a hella day, Andy. Long one too. Indeed. Indeed. Never again.
There's been a lot of trauma bonding going on today. In the places that I hang out on the internet.
Andy, you and I both being psych majors. I mean, I was just trying to get into the mind of what was exactly happening. And I was watching the rhetoric that Trump had. And as soon as he said to march on the Capitol, I knew exactly what was going to happen because I know how fanatical people will react. And I'm pretty sure you had the same visceral reaction of, oh, crap, here it comes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, marching on the Capitol. It was clear, the Trump subtext isn't very subtexty. His subtext is just text. And so people are like, oh yeah, well the boss just wants us to march on the Capitol, obviously.
Yeah, and then after that, it's like letting rats loose in a restaurant. You never know what the hell's going to happen.
Well, this was clearly orchestrated. I mean, like Andy, I sent you that article about the dude from Tempe out here in the Viking gear. That guy.
Right.
Yeah, I saw. Well, I wouldn't want to call it Viking gear. It looked like he was trying to play off.
Yeah, I know that's funny. I sent
but,
that picture to a friend of mine and who lives up in Salem, and I was like, "Man, you think the true assholes were you are our problem? Check this guy out." And all he said was, "Yeah, I saw that picture, and all I thought was, of course, the white supremacist Viking guy has historically inappropriate headwear."
Of course,
of course. Never Again from the chat says, did you see the slow motion clip of that woman being shot? She was attempting to get through the window next to the door they were attempting to smash. I didn't see her getting shot. I saw her being like drooped onto the floor and the blood coming out of her mouth. And I thought to myself, that looks like someone shot her right here, right like a center of mass. And I wasn't surprised to hear that she died afterwards.
This is this is security at the Capitol. Of course, they're trained to shoot for center mass.
Right.
Yeah.
But
you on your gun. We're not fucking around. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, neck shot. She got shot in the neck. Wow. That's hard. That's hard.
I did not read neck shot. I read center mass, but I mean, either way, I mean, she died.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, she died, and you know, in a way, it was. You know, an absolutely wasted death of a human life. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still tragic that this woman was incited to radicalize in that kind of way. I mean, yes, what she was doing was obviously merited self-defense, but it's sad that it had came to this point where human life was lost.
Yeah. So, did you see she had a Trump flag on, like a cape?
A lot of them had that, and
yes.
it's you know, I really feel for this country in a way that.
Well, I mean, on one hand, watching it all go on, no matter how ridiculous it's been today, I never thought that what they were doing was anything more than futile.
Yeah.
Right. So, as bad as it is, there's this part of me that is already kind of, okay, what are we looking at? What do we need to fix? What went wrong in society that allowed this to happen in the first place?
You know, at the end of the day, you can make the argument that Trump has blood on his hands because of this.
Yeah. You know, just to go back to what Daniel was saying a few minutes ago, is that, it made me think of Charlottesville, to tell you the truth. It's like you knew that there were going to be mobs of lunatics there. Why didn't you have why didn't you have the state militia, someone like a show of force? Why didn't you have a ring of steel around the Capitol building so that this didn't get out of hand to begin with?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they put it around the White House and in other places, but they didn't do it around the Capitol building. And in a way, I think it could be argued that Trump was very specific because he may have known where they do and where they don't have barricades set up. He would have known that they did not have barricades set up in certain places. That's why he probably said to go this place. And it was an intentional act to interrupt our democratic process.
I think probably a fair number of those crazy assholes think that if they can get to midnight without the election result being certain, somehow he wins.
We got the Cinderella syndrome here.
Wow. I never even thought of that, Jack, but I think you're spot on with that.
I guarantee you these crazy assholes think that. And that's what they are. They're crazy assholes. Let's not even.
Well, there is some kind of disassociation with reality. There's no doubt about that.
Oh yeah, the dissonance is strong with these individuals.
There.
Well, that's part of where it gets interesting for me in what we're going to have to do to look back on this in retrospect is to what extent are we going to have a even more serious discussion than we've already been having about the role of social media in society and whether or not social media companies have an obligation in the same way that journalists do to freedom of the press, to actually maintain that what is going out over their networks is the truth.
Well, there's it is. We come to a point that you say to yourself, what is to be done, right? And there are ways of solving the problem in the short term and maybe in the long term too. Like I always thought well, I have thought recently that since Fox News, since there are personalities on Fox News who insist that they are not doing news, that they're doing opinion pieces, that every single time there should be I'm serious, there should be some kind of qualifier.
Didn't Carlson's lawyer argue in court that it was absurd on its face that anyone could consider what he was doing news?
Well, he argued that he was an opinion host and not a not a journalist, even though on his show he claims to be a journalist.
Yeah. So there should be a disclaimer, as in, don't take anything this guy is serious. You should be like, you should listen to a comedian more than you should listen to Tucker Carlson.
Oh yeah, well, it's one of the reasons why I think people like the Late Show with what's his nuts, Stephen Colbert has become so highly rated just because people are getting their news from this guy.
but that's the thing. I mean, it's not news. Colbert is doing social commentary in the same way, but it's in the context of a late night television show. That's fine. No one's looking at Stephen Colbert and saying, okay, we know you're going to make jokes.
Right.
And we know that you're coming at this from a perspective, right?
Yeah.
Fox tried to present themselves as unbiased, and it's just,
that's their slogan, fair and balanced.
Right. Yeah.
Would the Ministry of Truth ever lie to you? Would the Ministry of Truth ever do that? It's in the name. It's in the name.
Garbles or whatever the heck that guy name comes to mind.
The Goebbels guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Never again says, I haven't laid eyes on Fox News, Fox anything for years. Just can't. I was thinking, so I watched PBS NewsHour today because they had the best coverage. They had that poor woman, the journalist, who was she had her cell phone and basically reporting in the middle of the chaos. So I watched PBS NewsHour, and then I switched it over to CNN later on. But I couldn't bring myself to watching Fox News because I think I would just burst up a blood vessel. That's what I think. I think I would have burst a blood vessel.
Anything from Fox all day.
They play to your limbic system. That's what they do to these individuals. If you watch something that's a little more that's actual legitimate, like the Associated Press, their reporting seems kind of dry because it's factual. But if you look at the way that, well, sometimes CNN even does it, but Fox News, bombshell report, they have all the bright flashing lights and they prime that limbic system to turn on, to get that emotion engaged. And so that rage machine is just powered right up. And you look at how many stories that are on Fox News that elicit a rage reaction. It's an anger, us versus them reaction is divisive.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Their job is to keep the base energized at all times.
Absolutely. It's absolutely scary to watch what they are doing. I mean, I worry about some people, that I care about, that they watch Fox News, and it's brainwashing our senior citizens for one. Because I remember I was reading a Gallup poll. I think it was the vast majority, 50%, if I remember right, of their core viewership was over 65 or 68 years of age. And then everything else trends towards the higher. And so this effectively means that this network follows baby boomers and the silent generation and panders to them, completely leaving out, Gen Xers, millennials, Gen Z, and is a subset of those silent generation and baby boomers that they are pandering to. Your white, working class, non-high school graduate, high school graduates, no college education.
Mhm.
So,
it's interesting that you bring that up about the demographics of Fox News, and in some way it tells you about the desperation of the Republican Party in general, about how they're getting into especially with Trump voters. It's a smaller and smaller demographic. So if they didn't make a lurch for power now, if they didn't make a grab for it, they know that they won't be able to win, even like a fake election or a heavily skewed election.
However, interesting point of fallout from all of today's events that is not being talked about on the news, I'm sure they'll get to it in a week or so, is that this was a super spreader event.
Oh, absolutely. The difference between, if you watch the BLM and the other protests that we've had, you'll notice the vast majority, and I've been to a few events, and I know that they hand out free hand sanitizer, everyone's wearing masks, yada, yada, yada. That was one of the things that I was watching actually at this event, as someone who works in healthcare. How many of these individuals were in fact wearing masks? And it seemed like the vast majority, I kept seeing like that person's not wearing a mask, that person not wearing. Why am I counting? Because the majority of them aren't wearing masks. I mean, for crying out loud, I have my I've been given the COVID
vaccine. Around screaming in everybody's faces, and they're running, and sweating, and
panting, breathing hard,
tripping over each other, and it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be real bad.
Oh yeah.
Did you guys see the picture of that dude who broke into Pelosi's office and is like living large in her chair?
Oh yeah,
just with his
pointing right at his dick. He was pointing right at his own dick.
What is remarkable, it makes me think about that idiot who leads the Proud Boys, right? The one that got arrested recently. He films himself doing vandalism. He films himself, throws it out to the world, and isn't any surprise.
It was a hate
What's
crime.
That? It was a hate crime, right?
Yeah.
It was a hate crime, and is it any surprise that if you're an idiot who films themselves committing a crime, that the police are going to pick you up?
Oh yeah. So I mean, all these individuals who are just escorted out of the building, they think they got off scot-free, but there is video evidence of them committing a crime. It's only a matter of time till investigators go, all right, who's that guy, and that guy, and that guy, and that woman, that woman, that woman. It's only a matter of time till these people who thought they got away with it scot-free or get a letter in the mail that says, oh, by the way, you have a summons that you need to appear in court for felony or misdemeanor or whatever the case may be.
And then they'll be like, you have no evidence. And it's all over the internet.
Yeah, you see this thing?
And they'll go, that's a deep fake.
It's like, we have your phone pinged right in the Capitol building.
I love to see them argue fake news in a circuit court.
Oh yeah.
That'll be very entertaining.
Well, I mean, we've kind of seen them try with some of those cases that Trump brought.
I mean, they failed spectacularly, but still, I mean, it'll be great just saying, watching one of those defenses, like, well, it's fake news. Like, well, that's funny because your face is like on every single thing. Oh, by the way, here's your face on Fox News. Is that fake news too?
Given that we've been going through this whole experience together in the atheist, skeptic, humanist kind of space, right? It's interesting that the pro-Trump argument at this point essentially boils down to, well, prove to me there's not fraud, which we've been arguing a lot against with the God thing for the last 15, 20 years, right?
Proven a negative. Got it.
True enough. Atheos, B. Sapien from the chat goes, Andy, if Trump supporters were smart, they wouldn't be Trump supporters. Certainly, yes. I'm just going to go with yes with that.
Hold on. I have met some who I would consider rather intelligent individuals. The thing is, they are primed emotionally to be enraged rather quickly and easily. So it's not really more of a matter of them being of low IQ. Yes, we have plenty of people that we could joke about being dumb, but these are also people who are easily emotionally manipulated. They engage in conspiratorial thinking. I know a chemist with a master's degree who is a Trump supporter.
So I'm gonna go with yes, but and just hear me out on this. So you can score high on an IQ test. Let's say you can crank out, not synthesize information, analyze information really fast, but you still have beliefs that make you act like an idiot in everyday life. So pragmatically speaking, you can be smart but still a dumbass.
Yes.
Just because you're smart doesn't mean you're not prone to cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, well, Ben Carson comes to mind. The guy's a neuroscientist, and I mean, granted, if I got told I had neurosurgery from Ben Carson, it's like, well, he's an expert in his field and he has a high success rate. Okay, but he's still a dumbass.
Yeah.
It's just it's the critical thinking. It's the ability to be emotionally manipulated. It goes beyond just
a bit of appeal to authority there, where it's just like, oh, he's a brain surgeon. He must know a lot about politics. Hang on.
Right, exactly. I think Neil deGrasse Tyson's a good guy, but I mean, he's astrophysicist. If I got told he's going to be doing surgery, I'd be worried.
So I gave my kid, my 15-year-old, I've been preparing or getting the idea that she go out of the country for college when it is time for her to go to college. So I gave her a text at around 3:15 today. I said, dude, look at the news. It's an ad for us to get out of this country.
Right. Yeah. It's moments like this, and I'm glad I'm a healthcare worker.
Unfortunately, there's a pandemic, and no one from other countries will let us in right now, so you can't apply for that study abroad program. You're stuck here, kids. You're stuck here to get this pandemic thing sorted.
I got this 3-year timeline with her, so I'm thinking by the time she graduates high school, someone will take us in. Someone will take us in.
The American refugee. Oh boy, I'm hoping that Biden's able to turn this around, because I mean, granted, at least silver lining in the future, things look like I'm looking up a little bit to 2021. House, Senate, and executive have all been.
There's a lot of room there, and forgive me in a room full of atheists for making religious illusions, but there is this kind of Shiva Vishnu thing going on, right? A whole lot of shit has just been torn down, and there's a lot of opportunity to build something with a better structure to it.
I will say, I will agree with you with that, is that there is an opening for sane and rational people, because it's a shock, isn't it? Even if you're kind of middle of the road America, maybe leaning a little center right, you look at what's going on today and you say to yourself, wow, that's nuts. That is like Timothy McVeigh blowing up a federal building, crazy level. And maybe we should just take a couple of steps away from the precipice and maybe entertain the idea that Bernie Sanders is right.
Or at least,
Yeah, at least not completely crazy.
At least that, having a universal healthcare system isn't the same thing as,
socialism.
The KGB is going to be pounding down your door next week.
Right. I mean, I have universal healthcare. I have VA. It works. And you know what? I know there's a lot of people who like to crap on the VA. I from my personal experience, I've been very happy with it.
I'll tell you this: the people who have a problem with the VA, that all of the VA's actual problems are due to underfunding, and that's Congress's fault.
Yeah.
So
I've been pretty happy though, from personal experience. I mean, in fact, if anything, sometimes I get irritated because I get a little bit too much in my business, and it's like, stop calling me. I'm trying to sleep. I work nights, so I mean, for those of who don't know that, so.
Oh yeah, that's right, dude. Didn't you just get your vaccine, your first shot?
I did. Actually, in fact, it's funny that you mentioned it. I have my multi-pass.
Very
good.
There
it is. It's probably not showing up, which is probably good because it's got personal ID on it. But yeah,
okay.
I have it. Hold on, I'll just do that. Then you can see it. Now my personal information is covered, but yes, I have had my first vaccine. So, I guess there is benefits to being a healthcare worker.
Yeah. So I heard that they are going to be the Senate and the House reps are supposed to be going through the night to validate Biden, to validate. I mean, that's from what I understand.
Yeah, last I heard before we got on the call was they were hoping to reconvene at 9 and see if they can't bang this through as fast as they can. Because at this point, I mean, even the people who said they were going to be objecting to shit at the beginning of the day are now like, okay, this is enough.
Well, tell me if I'm cruel or not. And I know I am. And I know I'm a little crazy and I like to push the envelope. I was explaining to my girlfriend how the Roman army would handle people, right? So if there was like a Roman city that was being besieged, so you'd have the city and then a ring of enemy around it. What the Roman army would do was that they would build a ring around the ring and trap the besieging army. And I was saying they should just do the count tomorrow, have all the protesters arrive, and then trap them.
But see, they've got Viking guy who is probably played TOEFL. And the TOEFL games are all about that kind of asymmetric attack and defend kind of nonsense.
Yes. Tons of Mice is saying they're meeting in the Senate chamber or the House. They're meeting right now. Even as we speak.
They're there now.
Yeah.
So the interesting question, as soon as they're done confirming the votes, do we get a little 25th Amendment action immediately following?
That would be amazing.
There has to be conversations, right? There has to be conversations about the 25th Amendment.
Pence is there with them. They can just be like, we'll deal with you for 2 weeks. Can we just get him? And you out too. And how would you people who made such a big stink about beating Hillary feel about Nancy being president for 2 weeks until Joe comes in? How do you feel about that, guys? We can do that.
That's a good leveraging point.
the thing is, right, with Trump, and we've all dealt with people because we're all adults, and we've all dealt with people who are just unreasonable, right? They can't be threatened. They can't be they can't be bargained with. And I think Trump is one of those guys. I don't think he could be in power realistically for the next 14 days without creating a lot of chaos. And there has to be some acknowledgement, I think, that, the question is what is to be done with Trump? Because you can't manage him at all.
He is.
You know how you sell it to Pence? You go up to Pence and you just be like, look, in the long run, in the grand scheme of history, 2,000 years from now, you'll have only been the 46th president for 2 weeks, but you'll have been the 46th president, and they'll remember you as having saved the country. You tell Pence that, and he'll go along with it. He's a greedy little.
He may do it if a Chippendales dancer brings it to him.
Oh, hey! I see what you did there.
I have a good friend of mine who says Pence is so far in the closet he knows what Narnia looks like.
Pence. He's got a lot of troubles. He's got a lot of interpersonal intrapsychic problems there with his sexuality.
Well, he needs a lot of shoring up from his wife, that's for sure.
From mother.
Sure. Yeah, mother. Oh my goodness. Now, so back to Trump.
True. That's why he's not allowed in rooms with women by himself, because his masculinity, they'll just throw themselves at him and want and abandon. Mike Pence, the sex symbol, please.
Oh, I know, right? Everyone just comes and drools as soon as he walks into the room, and him and his pasty complexion.
I like it, yeah. I like people who look like Steve Martin, but whiter.
Right?
Not funny.
The kind of person that said mayonnaise on a saltine is a spicy dish.
Hey, we'll see you later, never again. He's going to go listen to the Republicans and the Democrats do the vote thing. Yeah. Thanks for showing up, man.
But yeah, anyhow, I was still thinking about Trump and his pathology. I remember reading about him being the archetype effectively for the dark triad of personality disorders. Your narcissistic, borderline, and antisocial personality disorders. And being an individual of his particular pathology, he's going to be exhibiting a lot of narcissistic injury. He's going to lash out. He's going to be blaming other people. And the thing is, as the deadline comes, it's gonna get worse. And I don't see this as being the end.
Yeah.
Even if he is silenced on Twitter, he's gonna find another way to to spread his vitriolic nonsense and charge those people who are primed to listen to the man. These are
How crazy would it be? Okay, he accepts the obligatory invitation to the inauguration, gets up to give a speech, and starts giving an acceptance speech.
And hung like Jesus for the chat says, and can Biden please stop getting on TV and begging for those effing people to act right? This is what drives me crazy about Biden, and you're spot on, hung like Jesus. Begging does not help. Begging does not help.
No, these are people you can't be reasoned with.
Mocker helps.
They are fanatics. I mean, this is why I jokingly call them Al Qaeda, Vanilla ISIS, et cetera, et cetera. These are fanatics. These are our version of extremists that you would find in other countries. They are. Sorry.
And I totally agree. And I'll say this about Biden begging them. You don't beg bullies to stop. You don't beg bullies to stop. You tell them and force them to stop. You tell them forcefully to stop, but you don't beg them. That's like Chamberlain asking Hitler, pretty please with sugar on top.
Pretty please.
Stop. But asking bullies to stop, begging them to stop, it just incentivizes that behavior even more.
Yeah, no, he is a true. I thought it was funny. Remember when we were doing my personality psychology class back when I was at Pierce College? We actually used Trump as an archetype for several personality disorders. And I remember the professor said, it's not me saying this, it's the American Psychiatric Association. And she used the book A Dangerous Case of Donald Trump as the example to draw that basis off of. And I know that everyone likes to use the Goldwater rule, but I think we've reached that point of, screw the Goldwater rule. We've reached that point of no return of we have to actually listen to what our medical and mental health professionals have to say when they say, hey, red flag, look at this.
Yes, indeed. Tons of mice from the chat says, do we need to talk about the Trumper in the Capitol without a shirt sporting Viking horns? I think, Jack, he's from your neck of the woods, you were saying.
He is. He hails from Tempe, Arizona. And if you give me a second here.
That looked more like a Sioux headdress. So
yeah, I think it's Buffalo and West, whatever. Although, yeah.
I'm pretty sure the guy wouldn't know that though.
I think I think he had tats. The bull. I guess this is the international sign for that guy, the bull person there. He had some Nordic-y tats. Not fascist, supposedly, but still kind of Nordic-y stuff going on there.
Yeah. Jake Angeli is his name.
Jake? Oh, so we have a name for the guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, rioting people from Theoretically. Hello.
Man, it has been a day.
Now, an awkward question as far as the communities that we bounce around in, but in the long view of history, to what extent do factions of the skeptic community that bounce around in the libertarian space bear some sort of responsibility for all of this in the long run?
Well, I've made myself incredibly popular online by saying that you can't be a good atheist if you're voting Republican and libertarian for that matter. So I'm going to double down on that right now and say that if you are godless and a big L libertarian, because I was a big L libertarian at one point, or a Republican, big R Republican, then you are part of the problem and not part of the solution.
I have a couple family members, without saying any names at all, who I love and care about, who are a part of that political identity, and I do worry about their mental health. I honestly do, because I hear some of the things that they say, and I constantly have to fact check them. Saying, no, that's not true. Here's the actual facts, and I would wish that they would stop watching partisan news outlets, because I remember there was an instance where they were dissatisfied with Fox News and they subscribed to Epic Times, which I was very worried for them because they are of the much older demographic. And
Yeah.
I know the rest of my family is in the same kind of thing where we are encouraging those individuals to not be a part of that, to please examine what the actual facts are and not, just accept what that news outlet is saying. But that news outlet has done a very good job at brainwashing people over the age of 65. They've done a
Oh, yeah.
very good job at it. And I mean, I actually wrote about it, in fact, on my website. It was the most recent article that I've written. It's been a little while, but I remember how I wrote how Fox News is effectively brainwashing our senior citizens in a shameless way. And in fact, if you actually look at primetime on Fox, watch the commercials. Actually, watch the commercials that they have. All the commercials are typically geared towards that over 45 crowd, into the 65 and older crowd.
Yeah.
It's all investments, the blue pill,
Doomsday prepping.
yeah, just all those kinds of walk-in bathtubs, all those kinds of things. I'm not joking.
Which is very Bradshaw in the walk-in bathtub one, right? Like,
yeah,
that's a commercial. Oh boy.
Yeah.
I want to say I want to speak to this about what Theo says. If I can be so bold to call you Theo, theoretically, those are working class white people that feel righteously fooled by the establishment. The corporate Dems need to wake up finally that they can't go further right. And you know what? I would say that Trump is, and the cause of Trump, or one of the causes of Trump, is the failure of this democratic or this neoliberal philosophy that had been dominating the country for years.
So for those of who don't know what neoliberalism is, maybe we should probably at least check on that. So neoliberalism is the libertarian philosophy that effectively everything can be solved by the free market. Everything is marketable, and yada yada yada.
Yeah. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. It just doesn't. I mean, you can talk to a libertarian. Just because it makes logical sense, just because the syllogism is logically good, does not mean it's truthful. Doesn't mean it's moored with reality whatsoever.
Oh yeah. If anyone wants to see a
unsolicited plug for somebody who was on the podcast with me and Andy a little bit ago, Neoliberalism's Demons by Adam Kotsko. Very good book. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, if anyone wants to see a really good, spectacular example of how neoliberalism can be very nasty, look at what the cable companies have done. And what I mean by that is look at how they have how you could only get Comcast, only could get Xfinity or whatever. You only could get whatever the network is. You can only get that network in specific spot because they have divided places up like cakes.
And if you are in a place where you can get both, they have the content itself divided thanks to a whole bunch of copyright licensing deals.
Yep. And so that's how neoliberalism has its nice little workaround. The free market can't solve it when the free market is actually a part of the problem.
Right. Hey, I want to say hello to Brainbug in the chat. He runs a great channel, really smart guy, and as his name suggests, about bugs.
Nice. I need to go check out that channel. That sounds like fun. My kid will probably. Is it about like bugs, as in like insects and whatnot, or is it like bugs?
Exactly. Yeah. He shoots from a room with bugs. I mean, in cages. I mean, in aquariums, terrariums. But it's good stuff. Worth watching.
All right. Is it something that's like kid appropriate or not?
Oh yeah. Yeah. He is not doing anything weird with the bugs.
No.
You should know that all the bugs are naked.
The bugs are naked. That is correct.
That's
no.
Yeah.
Maybe the one Christian that's in here watching, they may be naked.
Yeah, right. Their lower thorax. I don't even know if I'm using the right term. Their lower thorax might be unclothed.
Anyways, what were we talking about? So now I'm suddenly thinking about naked cockroaches.
You know, the Trump ridiculous failed coup attempt on the United States government.
All right. How could we forget? That's what we're here to talk about. The ridiculously, I mean, what was the end? I mean, when we were talking about great coup attempts, successful and unsuccessful in history, they seem to have a plan. Beerhall Putsch, right, in Munich, Hitler, first attempt to overthrowing the Weimar Republic.
Caesar.
They had an attempt. Caesar had a plan. He had a plan. The Bolshevik.
Very smooth, got voted in, got the Senate to willfully give up its powers.
But the thing is, what was the Trump plan? What was the Trump plan? I don't understand.
Unlike Trump,
he leaves that up. He delegates, you see. He just knows what the plan is, and he waits for other people to come up with it, because that's all he's ever done his whole life.
Unlike other people throughout history who became head of their nation for their glorious time that they were, it could be argued that although Hitler was a monster, he was still a very intelligent individual. Trump does not have such virtues.
No.
Propping him up, like he's just a face of a bunch. There's a bunch of other really evil, manipulative assholes behind him.
Oh yeah, that's
holding him up,
That's why I used to refer to Pence as Emperor Palpatine, which hence would put Trump as Vader. Trump gets to be the visual of evil throughout the entire series until towards the end, where you get to see who's really pulling the strings.
Trump plan oxymoron. All right, I can go with that. I can go with that. Tons of mice. I can go with that.
The guy shoots from his hip and just hopes something sticks. Effectively, Trump a lot of times validates what a lot of these decrepit individuals. He validates their bigotry, their narcissism, that all these nasty things that your racist uncle that you only see on Thanksgiving espouses. You see the guy once a year, and it always pains you to see the guy, but you try to act nice because he's family. But it becomes a whole ordeal the entire night, because eventually it becomes part of the deep state and Illuminati, and therefore lizard people.
The thing is, it's a problem of scale, right? Like, okay, crazy asshole declares himself the ruler of America, right? If it's the 1800s and it's San Francisco and it's Emperor Norton, it's cute.
Yeah.
If it's Donald Trump, it's a problem.
Right.
Okay, I came up with this crappiest joke possible today. So Keva, who we both know, we've been on the podcast before, Jack, our buddy over in Iran. He and it was really I only wrote half the joke. I wrote the punchline. His question was, how come do the American police forget how to shoot when it's justified? And my reply was, because they have stormtrooper syndrome. Geez, I always love that. You see how it works? You see the layers?
Yes, that's lovely. I appreciate it.
Oh, I love not having to explain jokes. This is great.
It's early, so all the stormtrooper uniforms are cloth.
Sure. All right, guys, we've been doing this for about an hour, and I've been streaming for a lot today. I streamed from 9 to 9:30, and then for 2.5 hours just before the chaos started. And I'm going to be streaming again from 9 to 10 tomorrow on the channel with Chris Mallard, and we're going to be talking. Guess what? We're going to be talking about tomorrow morning. This same thing. All right. Lads, where can people, Daniel, where can people find you online?
So you can find me on the Scientific Atheist, or if you go on Facebook, look at Atheists Against Pseudoscientific Nonsense. We have a big page presence. You can't miss us. If you want to look up who I am personally, type in Daniel Fitzbennett on Google. I am literally all the first page results, so you can see whatever the hell I'm up to.
Right. And Jack, I see that you have your Twitter handle there. Right there.
That's not my Twitter handle, Andy. That is also my account name on Coinbase Wallet. If anyone wants to send me any cryptocurrency tips, please go right ahead and just send it to that if you're using Coinbase Wallet, because that seems like about as direct exchange of money for me doing stuff on the internet as one can get. So I would appreciate that. And also, the whole economic conversation for another time. But
so I have a question, Jack, about this Coinbase wallet that you have there. Can people just tip you in Bitcoin or in the altcoins too?
Yes, the wallet accepts something like 12 different coins, I think.
I seem to remember reading something that Bitcoin took a 13% dive, and that whoever uses that, I felt the sting from here.
No.
See, now I got to check my account. Thanks, Daniel.
Bitcoin right now just hit $37,000 a coin.
Okay.
It did, dude. You're right. It's Jack, what are you going to tell me? Jack, what are you going to tell me?
Less than a year ago, it was under $3,000 a coin. So if you bought a couple Bitcoin, you're in a very good place right now.
I bought a fraction of a Bitcoin, but even then, I still did okay. And my regret is that I didn't put in more money, or I didn't have more money to put into Bitcoin.
My regret is that this is a long, complicated story. But my regret is when I went to refinance my last house, I cashed out my Bitcoin so I could pad the down payment to get my monthly payment lower. Went through the refi.
Yeah,
and I regret doing. I did well with that Bitcoin. I don't mistake me. I bought it and I sold it for a fairly substantial profit. But not
$37,000 worth of profit.
If we could talk
if I still had 13 coins that I bought at $250, I would be a very, very happy man right now. But that didn't happen. But hey, swings and roundabouts.
If I could talk about regrets, I remember listening on Skeptic's Guide to the Universe back in 2014, or no, 13, because I remember I was up in the polar Arctic at the time. They were talking about Bitcoin, and I remember thinking about maybe I should buy one of these things, but then I thought, nah, it's probably just a fad. Now I'm one of those guys that was like, oh, the internet's just a fad.
Bulb. Digital bulbs. That's what they said.
Yeah, and so now I feel bad because I knew about it back in 2013.
Yeah. All right. So Jack and I are doing a show on Sunday night here at 10:30. We're having comedian Ian Harris on. We're doing some kind of shtick.
We are doing some kind of. Can we tell everybody what we're doing?
Yeah, go ahead. You're the mastermind of the bit.
I think we should save it. I think we're going to just be doing some very fun nonsense with Ian. I think
with the Trump voice. He's going to be doing his Trump impersonation. That's it. That's all we can say. All right, guys, thanks for coming on the channel. Everyone in the chat, thanks for showing up. Thanks for contributing. I had a lot of fun. Thank you for watching me while I drink. I need more people like that in my life. I'll see you all later.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.